Face-to-face, healthy relationship talk radio with one of the leading specialists and foremost authorities in healthy techniques in relationships. Learn why honor, beauty, leadership, and self-help is important for your empowerment. Now, here's your relationship specialist and host, Daaiyah Cixx.
So our guest today wants you to stop talking in order to communicate better and heal your relationships. Can you believe that? He has developed a new approach to communication, and he's going to explain to us how the current express yourself communication approach are relationships suicide and how they ultimately lead to health problems. He wants to welcome you to Communication to the 21st Century. Joining us all the way Carolina, please welcome to the show psychotherapy disruptor, relationship healer, and speaker, Mr. Phil Deluca.
Streak across your neighborhood naked, you'd look out, and there was your neighbor Susie running across naked. It was drugs, sex, and rock and roll kind of era, and let it all hang out. And what came out was this, quote, a new communication approach. Get in touch with your anger. Always be honest and open about your feelings. No secrets.
Right.
And the big boogeyman, and never go to bed mad at each other or you're, quote, running from the problem. Does that sound familiar?
You know what? That does sound familiar. And people still even hold that ideology today. So I'm ready to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, it's been absorbed into the culture. Yeah. And it's a disaster. One of the things I noticed was when I was using it with people, the situations were getting worse and better. And then I started having problems in my own relationships, and I started using it in my own life, and it was getting worse rather than better. And then started noticing that I started having health problems from all the stress. So I was like, maybe are these two related? I got to do something about my health. I'm too young to have arthritis and premature memory loss. So I started researching health, and what I discovered was, wow, there's a connection. What happens when when we get upset, the fight or flight response kicks in. I don't know how many people know about the fight or flight response, but basically we have two parts of our brain that I like to focus on. We have the front part of our brain, our cerebral cortex, our thinking brain. I call that our genius brain because it's the creative part of our brain. The intelligence, abstract thinking, learning, music, spirituality, love comes from the front of our brain. And then behind our ears, we have the survival brain. The amygdala is the scientific name. And I call it our crocodile brain because it's what we share with the lower life forms. And this brain is dark, bleak, doom, gloom. And in between those two, and survival only at the moment oriented. So what happens in between that is our hypothalamus, which switches blood between the front and the back brain. Now, when we get upset, body is actually, what happens is the hypothalamus switches blood from the front of our brain to the back of our brain, okay? And up to 75% of our blood flow switches from here to here, which basically says this part of our brain asleep. All right,
75%, that's a lot.
Yeah, you only have 25% of your blood flow here. So what happens is, if you've ever fallen asleep on a limb and you tried to walk, like with your leg, you tried to walk and you couldn't, you had to drag it, that's because there's no blood flow. You can't use it. Yeah. You mentally say move, and the leg is like, you got to be kidding me.
Right, exactly.
It ain't going anywhere. If you want to go there, you're going to have to drag me because I'm dead right now. That's what happens to the front part of the brain. It gets deadened, and all that blood gets rerouted by the switching unit or hypothalamus to the back of our head and becomes like on steroids. It becomes like on the Hulk. And then, that's connected through the autonomic nervous system to 90% of our organs, heart, liver, lungs. The whole body gets jacked up. That's why when we get upset, it's like, your lungs expand up to 1,200% because the perception is we're about to go into a life and death battle. Now, if you've ever seen anybody who, right, I'm going to use some props because I can show people what happens. If you ever seen anybody who was calm
Wait a minute. You know what? Hold on 1 second because I want to see those props. Oh my goodness. I want to see what you're going to do with these props.
Got this prop right here.
He looks scary.
listen, I know someone that literally transformed into that. You guys, we are getting ready to come up on tunes. I want you guys to listen oh my God, what Phil has to say. You guys, oh my God. And you know what? Listen, when you just said, have you ever seen anyone just all of a sudden turn into a madman? I had just expressed my story on this show, I think maybe about 3 weeks ago, of what happened to me. Someone turned into a madman. And I really want to know how that happens.
Yes.
And
Okay.
yeah, and all that stuff. So you guys just stay tuned with us. We're going to have more of this. And let me tell you guys do not want to miss this. Phil has so much information in his head. You guys stay tuned. Oh my God, I can't wait to get that fast.
Stay connected with Daaiyah Cixx for more information on practical tips, proven strategies, and healthy techniques. Right here on Face to Face Healthy Relationship Talk Radio.
We should be making magic. Everything we touch should be a classic. Tell me something good, not just on status. I got a feeling like the world is watching us. I don't wanna get too comfortable. Comfortable is inconvenient. I live for the moments were unrealistic. Headlines, headlines. Let them read all about us in headlines. There's a few things I can do without, but you're not one I need you in this, like there is nothing to lose. They call us rebels cause they don't like when we breaking the rules, but we on a mission like we ain't got nothing more to do. We should be making magic. Everything we touch should be a classic. Tell me something good, not just on status. I got a feeling like the world is watching us. Baby, I've been thinking about you. Tell me, are you missing me too?
Now, back to the only show educating you with the face-to-face system and opposites attract connection. Here's your host, Daaiyah Cixx.
Oh my goodness. I didn't even know that. Okay, you guys, we were on the break and I'm talking to Phil and he said something to me. Now, this is something that I didn't know. This is why I love bringing mental disruptors onto my show and also speaking to my elders, because when you speak to your elders who are constantly in school, they use this universe as their playground. They use this universe as their school system, right? You can learn a lot from them. And Phil just told me that there were 56 different versions of sugar. That I didn't know. And we are going to tie all this into how it is
Yes.
all of this affects our health. But before we went on the break, you was getting ready to put on this crazy mask. Okay, now go ahead and
So
start
let me
off
ask-
where you left off.
All right. So let me ask. So have you ever seen somebody who was calm 1 minute and then something happens, like like somebody, they come across some dirty dishes in the sink or something minor like that, and the next thing you know, it's like an alien enters their body, right? And right,
Yes.
and you're like,
yes.
who is that? This whole other creature.
I've had one of those.
And then they laugh and they get calmed down and the creature leaves. It's like, what happened there? Where did they go? And then maybe a few minutes later or a couple hours later, something upsets them and the creature returns and they're back. The alien is back and they're like, I don't know this person.
Yes.
And then they get calmed down again and the alien leaves. Well, that's what happens with the two sides of our brain, actually. When we were talking about how the front part of the blood gets rerouted from the front thinking, calm, rational brain to our crocodile attack brain. That's what happens. When you see the alien and the calm person are the two parts of the brain controlling the body and the mind, and then our communication and relationships. So what happens here is we have what's called if you ever been upset and heard yourself having this internal dialogue between the two in your head, now stay calm, you know, there's going to have real bad consequences. No, do it now. I want it right now.
That's me.
Me too. That's the two parts of the brain actually dialoguing, and you're listening to the two parts of the brain. And what happens is, as the stress keeps rising, and the switching unit, our hypothalamus, keeps switching blood from the front to the back brain, we have what's called crocodile brain hijack, where the back of the brain takes over.
Thanks for listening to this week's Face-to-Face Healthy Relationship Talk Radio. Join us next week, same time, same place, as Daaiyah continues to give practical tools for simple, healthy, face-to-face relationship living. Remember, relationships aren't hard if you have the proper tools to build you a solid foundation.